A government budget can often feel like just a big list of numbers. But every now and then, a budget comes along that's less about the next 12 months and way more about the next 25 years. And that's exactly what we're looking at with this year's budget. It's a foundational plan, a real blueprint for an incredibly ambitious future, laying the groundwork for what India wants to become. Okay, let's dive in.
So everything, and I mean everything, in this budget is framed by one single powerful vision, Viksit Bharat, which means a developed India by 2047, right on the 100th anniversary of its independence. And this isn't just a catchy slogan. It's a massive, multi-decade national project, and every single policy we're about to look at is designed as a crucial step on that long journey.
Okay, so that leads us to the big question, right? It's one thing to have this grand vision, but how does this specific budget actually build the foundation for it? How do these numbers and policies really create the economy of tomorrow? To get the how, we first have to understand the why. The government has organized its entire approach around three core principles, or kartavyas, which means duties, and these really act as the philosophical backbone for every single decision. So these three duties are basically the roadmap. First, speed up growth and make sure it can last. Second, give people the tools and opportunities to chase their dreams. And third, make sure development is inclusive and actually reaches everyone. You can think of them as the three legs of a stool, all working together to support that 2047 vision. All right, let's see how this plan starts to take shape. And we'll start with its most tangible part, a truly massive investment to build out the country's physical infrastructure. The headline number here is just staggering, a record 12.2 lakh crore rupees in capital expenditure. And look, this isn't just a little bump up. It's a huge statement of intent, pouring money into the concrete, steel, and logistics that are going to underpin all future growth. Now, what's really wild about this chart is just the sheer scale of this ramp up. You can see right here that public capital spending has just exploded, going from only 2 lakh crore back in 2015 to this new target of 12.2. This really shows you the government's strategy in a nutshell. Use public money to build the core stuff that then pulls in private investment. So what does all that money actually buy? Well, we're talking about dedicated freight corridors to move goods way faster, opening up 20 new national waterways for cheaper transport, and a big push for coastal shipping. But what's really crucial is that it's not just about the big metros. There's a serious focus on building up Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And to get private companies to jump in, a new infrastructure risk guarantee fund is being set up to de-risk these massive long-term projects. Okay, so from the physical world, we're now shifting gears to the digital. If infrastructure is kind of like the skeleton of the economy, then digital technology is its nervous system. And India is making a huge bet on powering that digital future, especially in hot areas like AI and semiconductors. One of the biggest hurdles for any country that wants to be a leader in artificial intelligence is the absolutely astronomical cost. I mean, building and running the massive data centers you need for high-end AI, that requires seriously deep pockets, which can be a huge barrier for startups and innovators. And that's the exact problem this budget is trying to solve. As Amit Kumar Tyagi, the CEO of TrueReach AI, puts it, the government is actively working to eliminate those cost barriers. So the big question is, how are they actually doing it? And here's the solution. And wow, it's a big one, a massive tax holiday. Basically, if a foreign company sets up data centers in India to provide cloud services to the world, they won't pay any income tax on that revenue until 2047. That is a ridiculously powerful incentive designed to attract billions in investment and turn India into a global hub for AI infrastructure. And this strategy is also leveling up in another super critical area, semiconductors. The first mission, ISM 1.0, was really just about getting the ball rolling. But ISM 2.0 is a major evolution. It's no longer just about making chips. It's about building the entire ecosystem, from design and materials all the way to homegrown intellectual property. And that focus on building the whole stack is echoed in electronics too. The money for the electronics components manufacturing scheme has been nearly doubled to 40,000 crore rupees. Why? Because the first version of the scheme was a massive success. It got almost 3 times the number of applications they were expecting. So the government is basically just doubling down on what works. All right, so we've got the physical roads and the digital highways. But who's actually driving on them? This next pillar connects all that big spending to the real growth engine of the economy, its businesses and its people. A key new idea in this budget is creating what they're calling champion SMEs. The goal here is to shift from just keeping these small and medium businesses afloat to actively helping them scale up, become more competitive, and eventually grow into large, really successful businesses.
And believe me, this isn't just talk. They're putting some serious cash behind it. There's a new 10,000 crore rupee SME growth fund, a top-up for the existing Self-Reliant India Fund, and a plan to revive 200 old industrial clusters. Plus, there's this really interesting new initiative called She-Marts, community-owned retail outlets specifically to give women entrepreneurs better access to markets. And this quote from Pushin Sharma at Crystal Intelligence, it really puts it all into perspective. He points out that an estimated 8.1 lakh crore rupees, I mean, that's just a colossal amount of money, is locked up in delayed payments to these small businesses. So these new funds aren't just support, they're a lifeline to solve a very real and very damaging cash flow problem. And finally, to make all of this actually work, you need a skilled workforce. The budget tackles this with a plan for 5 new university townships that are going to be built right next to major industrial corridors. The thinking here is pretty simple, right? Let's stop teaching things in a vacuum and actually connect the universities directly with the industries that need the talent. Okay, the plans are massive. The numbers are eye-watering. But a blueprint is only as good as its execution. So now we have to pivot to the reality check, the immense challenge of turning these grand plans into real results on the ground. Just to give you a sense of the sheer scale of this task, take a look at the National Infrastructure Pipeline, or NIP. This chart shows where all that planned investment is supposed to go. Almost half of it is just in transport alone, with huge chunks for energy and water. We're talking about thousands of massive, incredibly complex projects all across the country. And then you see this number. And it's pretty sobering. Despite all the investment and all the planning, as of March 2024, the completion rate for these NIP projects is sitting at just 20%. This just highlights the enormous gap that can exist between allocating the money and actually getting the job done. And so, that really brings us to the final, critical question, doesn't it? The 2026 budget presents a clear, ambitious, and well-funded blueprint for India's future. The vision is absolutely there. The money has been allocated. But the real test, well, that's going to be in the execution. Can India bridge that gap and turn this detailed blueprint into a developed reality by 2047? That remains the ultimate challenge.